So, finished yesterday on Daf Sama Aleph Base 61 B, but I'm gonna go back for a minute and I'm gonna just give a rundown of 61A so that we can understand that. 1 second. I just want to wait for Jules because once I start this.
No,
What?
he'll catch up.
Okay. So the Gemara started off with a simple question. Wanted to know whether or not it says in the Torah it specified the signs of the birds, right? So the Mishnah said that non-kosher birds have 4 signs that they're not kosher, and that kosher birds have the opposite 4 signs. Good morning. So that's what the Gemara started off. So the Gemara said, is it true? The Mishnah said that it's not said in the Torah. It's only the Chachamim, our rabbis, told us exactly these are the signs of non-kosher birds. So the Gemara wanted to know and verify this is true, because it seems that there's a brisa that says otherwise. So Abaye answered that no, that brisa that says that it says in the Torah examples of birds that are not kosher, but it never said exactly which features make them not kosher. So that's why the Chachamim had to tell us the exact features. Okay, that was the beginning of the Gemara. Then the Gemara was trying to figure out exactly why the Torah had to write so many non-kosher birds, and how we know that even a bird, only one sign for example, its gizzard can be peeled, is going to be kosher. So the Gemara was trying to figure out whether that's true or not. So the Gemara started off and said, maybe you should say that. So the Gemara said first, from the fact that Torah wrote Nesher, wrote an eagle, wrote a vulture or whatever. A vulture is the fact that Torah wrote that a vulture, which has 4 signs of not being kosher, right? Has all 4 signs. I'm going to run through them again just quickly. If it let's go in order. Has an extra finger, has a crop. Sorry, it doesn't have extra finger, doesn't have a crop. Its gizzard doesn't peel, its gizzard does not peel, and it stabs its prey before it eats it, or depending on which opinion you go with. Okay, so those are the 4 signs. If anything which has even one sign of even one of those things, the other way is going to be kosher, right? So that means a different bird that, let's say, just has its gizzard peeled, that's enough to tell us that it's kosher. That's the Gemara's assumption. The Gemara, of course, questions that assumption. Why should that be kosher? Maybe you say the other way, right? The same brisa told us. The same brisa said that a pigeon has all 4 signs, and it says the same way a pigeon has all 4 kosher signs, so too other birds have all 4 signs. So maybe say that only something which has all 4 signs of being kosher, maybe say that's what's required to be a kosher bird. Why would you say that it's only one sign? So the Gemara says, if that would be true, why would the Torah write? If it would be true to say that, why would the Torah write so many birds? It could have just said, right, so many non-kosher birds. And the fact that it actually went and said so many birds. So then it must be that there's more here than just than requiring that everything has to have 4 signs, all 4 kosher signs like a pigeon. Okay, so then the Gemara said, then say maybe say that you should. So fine. So you don't want to say that it's like an eagle that has 4 signs. So maybe say. So the Gemara is trying to figure out why the Torah had to write an eagle. It could have just written something with there were some birds in that list that say that have 3 kosher signs. No, it starts late. 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's July 4th weekend. So
awesome.
So relax.
Welcome to join, or
you can join us.
Okay.
So I can actually.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the Torah says. So maybe why didn't the Torah tell us something which the Torah told us some birds that have 3 signs, three non-kosher signs. The Torah could have just said those, and we would have known for sure something which has 4 signs would be non-kosher as well. Oh, sorry. If you want, first of all, I guess you can use this one.
Yeah,
I might need to borrow
was
some
learning.
hard words coming up.
Oh,
I'm actually looking because I'm trying to learn Holland myself.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can get your number, we could learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll do it after the share shop. Okay, so we're up to. I'm just running through the Gemara over here. We did it yesterday quickly. I'm just going through it again slowly. Right over here. I'm just quickly saying. But so maybe we should just say a bird which is a bird which only has three symbols, three signs, three non-kosher signs, and we know for sure anything which has even if I tell you something which has three is non-kosher, for sure something that has four non-kosher signs is going to be non-kosher. Simple. Then the Gemara says, okay, fine. But then why did the Torah have to tell us something with two signs, right? I could have just said that, right? If I would have told you two, then you would have known 3 and 4 also. And the same thing, then why did the Torah tell me 1? Then I would have known 2, 3, and 4. Simple. Okay. So the Gemara's like, you're right. So okay, so now we're up to one sign, right? The Torah should have written just one Paris Vaznia, they're called. Let's start. Let us start from Imkain. The first word in the third line, it's Hashta. Right? So the Gemara is only at the stage of why the Torah couldn't have just written the birds Paris Vaznia. These are two types of non-kosher birds, right? Paris and Aznia. And they each have one non-kosher sign. Why couldn't the Torah just have written that? And from the fact that once you know that something with one non-kosher sign can't be eaten, you'll know that for sure something with 4 non-kosher signs or 3 non-kosher signs or 2 non-kosher signs, it's all the more, right? It's even less kosher, right? It has extra non-kosher signs. Let me run through the list one more time for you. Non-kosher signs are not having extra finger, right? Its gizzard does not peel. Gizzard has an inside membrane that can be peeled off. Some can or can't be peeled off depending whether or not it's a kosher bird. And it does not have a crop. Kosher birds all have a crop. And not necessarily. Kosher. A sign of a kosher bird is having a crop. And the fourth sign is it holds down its prey while it holds down its food or picks up its food while it eats. Okay. Okay, so now Hashta this the Gemara says, now that I said this is what I just said, not inside. Now that we in the case where you know that you can't that a bird that has 2 non-kosher signs, that you can't eat it. It's like how the Torah need to tell you a bird with 1 sign? No, of course not. So the Gemara says, this is literally what I just said. I started from here. So let's learn out from Paris and Aznia, the 2 birds that have 1 sign, right? And Cain, the Gemara asks, and the Gemara has come full circle, right? The Gemara has asked, why do the Torah need to tell us a bird with 4 non-kosher signs? Asks why we need to 3. Why the Torah needs to tell us birds that have 2 non-kosher signs? Asks what the Gemara has to tell us birds with 1 non-kosher sign. Now the Gemara is back around like 1 second. If you're going to tell me that the Torah just was telling us a bird with 1 non-kosher sign, right, and that would be enough to know everything else from, then why did the Torah tell us the bird with 4? Right? So it must be a Torah trying to tell us something else over here. You don't have the right. We're not getting the right message. Okay. Now that we said that a bird that has only 1 non-kosher sign, you can't eat it, right? All the more so a bird with no kosher signs, right? An eagle has none of the kosher signs. All the other birds.
I think that was the one I learned with this one.
Okay, it could be in the back. They have something else.
Yeah, I think I learned with this one.
Okay.
This is chapter 3. And
Chapter 360. It might be further in the back. I'm not sure.
over.
I just first check over here. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You got it?
Here's the, I don't see something there.
Let's see. I'll put it back.
Yeah, that's one.
Summary of this.
I showed you in
Oh yeah.
learned Hashkia course. They used this book.
Oh,
So I was hoping I had something.
okay. Fine. So I'm going to start a new topic soon. Once that, it's easier to grab. I mean, this is like the middle of something, so it's a little hard to start with. Okay. So, okay. Ella. Okay. Now the Gemara says Ella rather. That should be less like Kollel Teichel. So what's the Torah? So the Gemara reverts back to its original assumption that the Torah must. Sorry, everyone, for the pause. Ella rather. That should be less like Klal. We're on the 7th line. Nesher, the less like Klal. Nesher, the less like Klal. Who? Teichel. So an eagle, vulture, which doesn't have any kosher signs, that's a bird that you can eat. But it's like a bird that does have a kosher sign, you can't eat, right? You are permitted to eat it. So it's a very technical Gemara. It's a little hard to keep following. Okay, so the Gemara is back to its original assumption. So now we have to explain all those things, all these questions. We still have to explain them. The Ella time because Rachmana Nasher Halav Hachi Havamina, and the reason why the Torah has to write a vulture or an eagle is the reason why is Halav Hachi. If it wasn't for that, we would have thought that we should learn. We should make our assumption, our last assumption, which was Paris and Aznia, the birds with one sign, right? If the Torah had written the bird with 4 signs, we would have made an assumption that anything with even one, we would have said something that even has one kosher, something that only has one kosher sign is going to be non-kosher, right? It's a little confusing because the signs work both ways. A bird that has all 4 of them, right, is a bird. The lack of them is a non-kosher sign, and having them is a kosher sign, right? So, so we would have thought that we should learn from the Torah that from Paris and Oznia, the birds that have one kosher sign. Okay. Now the Gemara asks a question. So you're telling me that if the Torah wouldn't have written Nesher, an eagle, then you wouldn't have then you would have thought to learn out of the birds with only one sign, and that would have made a lot of birds non-kosher, right? So you're telling me that we would have learned out of Paris and Azini, basically. That's what you're telling me. That's what we would do, right? And that's what the Torah had to write. The Torah had to write the bird with 4 signs because otherwise you would have learned out a bird with 1 sign, right? Okay, so now the Gemara asks, 1 second. The Torah wrote 2 birds with 1 sign, right? Paris and Aznia. You keep saying Paris and Aznia, right? It wrote 2. And we have your rule throughout the whole Talmud. Shnei ksuvim abank echad. When you have 2 psukim that say the same rule, right? There's shnei ksuvim abank echad ein malamdin. And when you 2 psukim say the same thing, shnei ksuvim abank echad, around 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 13th line. 12th line. We do not learn two psukim, two verses that come to tell you the same thing, because everything in the Torah is a rule, unless when you say something twice, that means it only applies in certain situations. If you say it once, that means it applies everywhere. If you say it twice, it only applies in those cases where you said it. So you can't learn. So then we never learn it. We can never take anything from Paris and Aznia because those are specific rules. So therefore, then you don't need to write an eagle because we would have never learned from them anyway, right? So your assumption was off. So the Gemara is like, no, you're wrong. Gemiri, we have a tradition. We learned from Halach Moshe Sinai. We know this all the way from Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ikka Bahai, Lekka Bahai. That Paris and Aznia have different. That aspect, that one non-kosher sign that they have, it's different. Each of them have a different one. So really, the Torah only said each one once. So you still would have learned that at Paris and Aznia. Okay. Mechti esma ba'oif v'arbo'if is tmeim hava. The Gemara's like, 1 second. At the end of the day, there's 24 esrim ba'arba, 24 oif tmeim non-kosher birds. The after the chad ikka mahanav like mahanav.
And non-kosher, you said?
Yeah, we're over here. Right over here. The after it is impossible that one. It can't be that there's not two that have the same thing. If 24 of them must be something that there's only 4 non-kosher signs, right? So there's only 4 non-kosher signs. So it must be that some of them have the same non-kosher signs, right? And then you're going to have at some point some of the birds are going to be 2 verses telling you the same thing. So again, we're relying on a tradition to tell us that what? So 20 out of the 24 birds, they all have the 3 same non-kosher things. They have the 3 non-kosher features are in all of them. And a raven has 2. Okay, so you have 20 non-kosher birds. They all have different variations of 3 of the non-kosher signs. I mean, some of them have, let's say, the non-kosher. They don't have extra finger. They don't have a crop. They don't have. They are dorish. They stab their food. They all have variations of that. Let's say, and Paris So one of those birds that only has one, that's the only non-kosher bird that has that sign. The rest of them don't have it. So there's one of them has a non-kosher feature that none of the rest of them have. And the one and Paris don't have the same one. The Gemara said that already. So you would think that maybe we should learn out of one of them. Therefore, because of Rachmana Nesher, so you still had to write the bird with 4 non-kosher symbols, 4 non-kosher signs to tell you that Nesher, the less like Klal, that a vulture which has none, you shouldn't eat, but something which even has 1 kosher sign, if there's one that has, if a bird which has 1 kosher sign, you can eat. That's the Torah to tell you Nesher, to tell you an eagle, to tell you that only something which has all the non-kosher signs you can't eat, something which has even 1 you can eat, aside from the 24 the Torah said specifically. Okay? Okay, now the Gemara goes back to the question I had early on. The Gemara, so why did we tell you pigeons, right? Torah told us pigeons. Right? The Bryce that we said in the beginning of this whole long calculation. I hope everyone followed. It's not an easy. If you didn't, every time I do it, I have to figure it out again. So
you have tea, by the way. Do you have tea?
Yeah, you got to heat the water. You got to heat the water in the Keurig.
I'll turn the question back. Why did Torah tell us pigeons? Why did the Bryce? Why did Torah tell us pigeons? Sorry, Torah said that pigeons are kosher. The carbon is coming to tell you pigeons are just telling you that pigeons are kosher for a sacrifice, but it's not to tell you whether they're kosher or non-kosher for eating, because they're definitely kosher for eating. Okay,
They're definitely kosher for eating.
Yeah, no question. There. Yeah. Fine. Amar Reb Nachman. So now we're gonna go into a little easier territory, except for there might be some harder words. I might need some help, everyone. Okay. Amar Reb Nachman. Saying someone was an expert. Someone was an expert in the birds and their names. Then when a bird comes with one where you just established that a bird that has 1 kosher sign is enough. 1 kosher sign is enough to tell you that a bird is kosher. So as long as you're expert in all these names, in all birds, which birds are not kosher, which are kosher, and you find a bird that comes with one sign, as long as you know the non-kosher birds, then you're fine. So basically, you only have to know 2 birds to know that everything else is kosher. You have to know Paris, you have to know Aznia, right? You have to know what a Paris is, you have to know what a Aznia is, because they're the only birds that have one. They're the only birds that have 1 kosher sign and are not kosher, right? So therefore, you have to know them, and then everything else, any other birds with 1 kosher sign, is going to be okay to eat as long as right. Okay. Saying if you do not know, if you're not fluent in what a Paris is and what an Aznia is, or if so with the one that has 1 kosher sign, it's going to be not good. It's going to be impure because maybe it's a Paris, maybe it's an Aznia. If it has Mishnei Siman, as long as it has two kosher signs, it's gonna be then it's fine. As long as as long as you can recognize what an Erev is, right? Which is generally known as a raven, but there's Erev is a big family. You have to know what's an Erev. What is a raven? We have some important over here that are definitely not kosher. I mean, those are crows, ravens, whatever. Not anyway. I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. We only eat birds if we have a tradition to eat because we say we're not experts. We're not fluent in all the
To find a raven to eat bird.
What?
We're not looking to find a raven to eat. We just eat.
Right, but it's any birds of the family. We're not be looking for it, but the reason why we don't eat it, maybe we would eat it, but we don't because we only eat birds we have a tradition for.
Yes.
Okay. So is a raven the only bird which has two signs that you can't eat? Well, Tanya, we have a brisa. Orev is lamino. Orev is the only. When it says in the Torah, Orev, it means only an Orev. So Rabbi Dovid, that's the Chacham. Rabbi Dovid says no. The Havi says Zarzir. Rabbi Dovid says no. The Torah is telling you when it says Orev, it's including Zarzir, another type of bird, which is similar to the raven. Amr Rabbi Dovid said, Rabbi Dovid, hold on, Rabbi Dovid. Don't the people of Kfar Tamrasa, which sounds like the date, the date kibbutz or something, Tamrasa means dates. Shabi Yehuda, it was in the section of Eretz Yisrael that was known as Yehuda. It's the southern section of Eretz Yisrael, of Israel. They used to eat the orei. They used to eat this bird because it has a crop. Amar Lahan, he said to them, they're going to have to give judgment for this because they're making a bad call. Davar acher lemineyu. And why does it say in the Torah the word? It says in the Torah, they changed on the side to leminoi. It says in the Torah leminoi. What is that to bring? Lahavi snunis levana. That's to tell you that a snunis levana is also forbidden to eat. This type of bird, again, a snunis levana. I don't know what it translates. They have a translation over there. Rashi gives a French word arundile. So, does anyone know who that is?
Swallow.
They say a swallow. Okay. Let's tell you, a swallow is also not kosher. Rabbi Lezer, but this is Rabbi Lezer. So Chachamim said to him, Amr told him, the people of the Galil Elyon, the upper Galil, which is like where Tveria is, right, in Israel. They eat it. Why? Because it's gizzard peels, and we said gizzard peeling is one. If your gizzard peels, and if the gizzard peels is one of those kosher symbols, one of the kosher signs. Again, they're going to have to give judgment for this because they're making a bad call. Rather, Reb Nachman said you can eat any bird that has two kosher signs as long as you recognize all types of ravens. He's saying according to all opinions. Okay. Amar Meimar says, Hilchasa, this is the halacha, that the final ruling is any bird that comes with one symbol, with one sign, is tar, is pure, as long as it doesn't lift its food while it's eating, or hold down its food while it's eating, according to Rashi or Tosfos.
They consider it cruel or what? With the whole.
If you want to know the Torah doesn't say that's the reason why it's because it's cruel, but that is what the people are. Those called the Farshei Torah, people who are trying to explain the Torah's reasoning. Sometimes give another reason. The Torah always has many more reasons. The Gemara says Shivim Panam HaTorah. There's 70 faces to the Torah. The Torah has many different aspects, and different reasons why it says that. So there are those that say, because it's cruel. They're cruel birds. You don't want to eat such birds. Okay. Okay. So again, a bird that comes with one kosher sign is going to be considered a pure bird as long as it's not doris, doesn't stand its prey. Okay. What about Reb Nachman? What about Reb Nachman said? Reb Nachman said, as you can eat any bird that has one kosher sign, as long as you recognize Parasin Aznia, and two, as long as you recognize Orev, right? So Amarli Loishmirli, Claimer Leisirli. I didn't hold of Reb Nachman's rule. You can't follow that. So meaning Amemar is really being more lenient than Reb Nachman. Reb Nachman said you have to know what Paris is, what Aznia is, and he said you have to know the whole Orev, everything in the Orev family. everything in the raven family, which is quite large, by the way. So why he was more stringent than Rabashi? So why? So and over here we're saying as long as you know any bird with one kosher sign, let's say it's gizzard peels and it doesn't stab its food, that's fine. That's gonna be kosher. So he said, what about Reb Nachman? He said I didn't hear it, which really is basically saying I don't hold it. Meaning he heard it, but he wasn't. I don't know. I disagree with him. My comparison is he's like, well, what do you mean? What about you said that any bird with one kosher sign. What about Paris and Asnia? Those are the ones with one kosher sign, and they're really not kosher. What about them? It says, the less Rabbi Yishuv, any settled, they don't really hang out in settled places. So that means, by the way, if you want to know what the final ruling is in Shulchan Aruch, which means that the final ruling is we follow tradition, but theoretically you have to be careful in a desert, let's say, because if you're in a place where they're in a wild place, then they are there, and you have to worry that if you don't know what a Paris and Asnia is, and you're going to end up eating it. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, Oifim Masarit Kosher. And Taharis Mitzvah. A bird that scratches is kosher for making a Mitzvah pure. Right? The Torah gives a process to purify Mitzvah. There's a whole parsha actually called Mitzvah. So it's a process. You have to use a bird, you have to slaughter one bird, and you have to send away one bird. And it says it's kosher to use it for what bird is this? This is a swallow. Right?
You said you have to kill one bird and then let another bird go away.
Yeah. You take two birds, you slaughter one, you put the blood into some water, and then you spray it on the Mitzvah, and then you send the other one away.
Okay.
Fine.
I think that was
this is the swallow. Rabbi Lezer and the Chachamim disagreed on. Right, so Rabbi Yehuda is basically taking a side and telling you that he holds like the Chachamim that a swallow is kosher. That's what it would seem. Amar Meimar says bechivra karsa, when it has a white stomach, everyone a white. There's a word for it. What's the white breast? The words. Yeah.
Belly.
My belly. Okay. Kuli amalei pligi b'sharya. Everyone agrees that a white bellied swallow is kosher. Meaning even Rabbi Lezer. Ki bligi b'yeruka. They argue when it is Yeruka can mean yellow, green, or blue. So when it's Yarik. So let's assume it's yellow. Yeah. Okay. When it's yellow. So yellow-bellied swallow. Rabbi Lezer said it's forbidden. Rabbi said the rabbi said it's going to be kosher. It looks like Rabbi Lezer, and the final ruling will be like Rabbi Eliezer. Okay. So he's saying that halach will be like Rabbi Lezer. Zutter had a slightly different style of learning. Learning this agreement of Rabbi Lezer and the rabbis. The Yeruka Karsa, the yellow-bellied one, everyone agrees the yellow-bellied one is forbidden. So he has a more stringent view of this machlokas, this disagreement. Right? He says the one before said that everyone agrees that a white-bellied swallow is kosher, and they argue about a yellow-bellied one. He says no, everyone agrees that a yellow-bellied one is forbidden. They have a machlokas, they have a disagreement with a white-bellied swallow. He played with the Chevra Blazer said it's forbidden. Rabbanan said it's going to be permitted. And the halacha, the final like the Rabbanan, the Shar. But he ends up, it's funny, he has a more stringent view of it, but he ends up saying that the white-bellied one is kosher anyway. No, so the first opinion, the first way of learning this machlokes was a lot more lenient. He said that the white-bellied one is kosher for sure. And the yellow-bellied one's not. Over here, he's saying the yellow-bellied one's for sure not kosher. The white-bellied one, it's a machlokas, and but we're saying we pass like the lenient one. Okay. We go with the lenient one. So according to the view of the Gemara, right? The first person who learned this Gemara, who said that the yellow-bellied one is the one that they have a. Sorry. According to Mar Zutra, who we just said. 1 second. That they disagree about a white-bellied swallow. This is what the Brisa said. The Brisa said over here, Lahavi Snunus Lavana. When I said in the Torah, Leminoi, that's to tell you that a Snunus Lavana is kosher, that a white-bellied swallow is kosher. But according to the opinion, according to the second version of the disagreement, that they're why does it say a white-bellied swallow in the Brisa, right? it says a white-bellied swallow. How do you know yellow-bellied? There's no mention of yellow-bellied swallow. So how can you say they're disagreeing on it? We have a machlokus and a disagreement in a brisa, and disagreements and the brisa says they're disagreeing. They're talking about a white-bellied swallow. So how can you say that later that they're talking about a yellow-bellied swallow? They're disagreeing on that. So he says no. The reason why it says a white belly is because we're trying to tell you specifically that a black-bellied swallow is for sure non-kosher. So the Mishnah is saying white belly, but it doesn't really mean white belly. It's just telling you not black belly. So it's including yellow belly.
Similar to how they differ, why they like judge the colors and say that they're kosher, not kosher. It kind of finds it interesting.
Different species. They have to different species have different rules. So I mean,
there's something about the color maybe that I don't know.
I think it's just a different breed. It's different. A yellow belly swallow is not the same as white belly swallow. Even today, I mean, if you look in I'm sure if you look in what's the English word for bird experts? Second
word expert.
No, there's no fancy word for that.
I know there is.
Whatever, some sort of
some sort of ist.
Yeah.
Some sort of ist.
Yeah.
Ornithologist. It's an ornithologist.
Ornithologist, right? If you ask them, he can tell you all the differences between all the different colors of this breed. You look in a book about this, you'll see the yellow belly this and the other one that. They have names for all these birds or different species. Right. So it's important to know if some of them are kosher. That could be the difference, The coloring it's not only the coloring necessarily, you know what's going on inside. Okay. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, now the Gemara is going to go through a bunch of types of birds basically for a while. Okay. Amar Rachva, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rachva said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, from Rabbi Yehuda, Tasil, the bird Tasil. Min is a type, Rashi says it's a type of pigeon. Type of dove. So this is talking about that whether or not it qualifies. We're just taking a quick little detour. We just mentioned Mitzorah, right? So we're taking a little detour into whether or not this is kosher whether it's kosher as a sacrifice. So a tussle, which is a type of dove, is going to be it's not going to work. And the Torah says you need to use a pigeon. This tussle is not going to work. The kosher misham b'nei yoina, that it will work as it will work as a dove, as a turtle dove.
It's a young pigeon.
Sorry. B'nei Yoina, the Torah says, basically means young pigeons. So it's going to be, when it's young, it will be kosher as a young pigeon. But when it gets older, it can't be used as a pigeon. It's very interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a pigeon.
The Turin Shel Rachva, and a certain breed of pigeons called Turin Shel Rachva, that's most they can translate it as, Kasher Mishum Turin. They're kosher as pigeons, but they're non-kosher as young pigeons. Meaning, when I say not kosher, they're kosher to eat for sure. The question is whether or not they're qualified for a sacrifice or not. Meaning for certain sacrifices.
If you're not allowed to eat it, can you sacrifice it? How does that work?
No, absolutely not. No. Sacrificing anyway, you can only sacrifice turtle dove, young pigeons and pigeons. So it's not very limited options as birds. You can eat chicken. You can't put it on the mizbeach, for example. Master Rav Daniel Baktina. So Daniel Baktina had a question from these things we just said. These breeds are kosher. Which ones are not? Which ones are kosher for a sacrifice? Which ones are not kosher for a sacrifice? It says in a brisa, in a Mishnah, the brisa, all birds are kosher. All birds are not kosher. They disqualify the water. Okay, so the water of a para aduma, right? We have the red heifer that makes people, right, after people are close to, they touch something, so they touch a dead person or something like that, they get the tumas mace, it's called, the impurity of a dead person on them. They have the whole 7-day process they have to go through, but they have to get sprayed with ash of a red heifer. So, and you have to mix that ash with well water. So that well water has to be absolutely still water, basically. And if a bird drank from it, it's going to disqualify the water. Why? The patient makes tetzes, because a turtle dove, a pigeon, because it sucks in. When it drinks, it doesn't spit back into the water. It only takes. It's like it sucks out, but it doesn't. None of it goes back into the water. So therefore, it won't disqualify because it's not leaving any spit in the water. Water has to be 100% water. You said that a tassel is kosher as a young, right? It's kosher as a young pigeon. So how come this Mishnah doesn't say that a tassel is also kosher? That the water, the meichatas, will be kosher as well when a tassel drinks from it. The reason is because one of them sucks in and spits out, meaning the tassel sucks in water and spits out water, so therefore it disqualifies. That one, by the regular pigeon, it only pulls out; it doesn't spit any water in. Okay, so now this doesn't have a lot of hard words. Amar Rav Yehuda, Ani Kufshani Tzaini Ksher. These again pigeons. It's a certain type of breed, a specific breed of pigeons to a place. They are kosher for the altar. If you want to, right? Yeah. And these are the pigeons that we mentioned before. It's pigeons of Rachva, certain breed of pigeons. Mesave, once we're on the subject of whether accuracy of names of birds that are kosher for Mitzorah, we talk about Azov. Part of the process of the Mitzorah is spraying and of the red heifer is using an Azov, a certain type of grass, right? Azov has to be the breed of grass called Azov, below Azov Yavin, not Greek grass, below Azov Kuchli, below Azov Roimi, not Roman grass, below Midivrei, below Midbari, not desert, not certain type of this grass from the desert. What do they call it? And how they translate Azov?
Azov.
Translate Azov, okay. Okay, we just have to stick with Azov. Okay, so not the desert Azov, not the Roman Azov, not the Greek Azov, local Azov Sheish Hashem Levai, and not any type of Azov that has a accompanying name. So that means if it's Roman Azov, American Azov, it's not kosher. It has to be the plain Azov. Amar Abai, kosher Nashana Shema, anything which changed its name before the Torah was given, and it's Viktir Torah love, and the Torah said specifically that you have to use a certain type, right? Like you should take a Azov. The Hashem Levi has an additional name like Azov, like Roman Azov. It's not possible. It's not going to be good. These Azov that we just mentioned, that whole list, none of them had their name changed before the Torah was given, so they're really all going to be kosher, right? It's only if they got an extra name. It's only if it was a different species of grass that people gave it the name Azov afterwards, and they attached another name to it. So that's not going to be kosher. And all these are really the original Azov. Those pigeons that Rabbi Yehuda said, Kufshani, right? Those pigeons in their place, they're just called regular pigeons. So therefore, he's just like adding a proof to Rabbi Yehuda, who said that they're kosher for the Mizbeach. He's pointing out that in their place they're considered regular pigeons, and then of course they're going to be kosher for sacrifice because regular pigeons are kosher for sacrifice. Okay, I'm Rabbi Yehuda, and these are just going to be running through a lot of names of whether breeds of birds that are kosher. Hani karzi bechilfi sharu. These karzi chagav, certain types of grasshoppers that are from a certain place, they hang out in a certain type of thorns are kosher. But the bay carbi and the ones that hang out by the other, a different type of by cabbage, those are non kosher. And it's to the extent we know we're so certain they're non kosher that we can whip you based on this for violating the prohibition of eating a flying bug. Rabbi Yehuda, Sarda Shari, the type of grasshopper called Sarda is going to be permitted. Barda Aser, the one that's called Barda, is going to be non-kosher for Simonich and a mnemonic for you to remember. Is Barmine Marda Safka. Barmine Marda Safka. Barda, which is Barmine, is for sure. Barmine, which in Aramaic means get away from us. So Barda is also, we said Barda is also, so Barmine, get away. Bar should get away. And Marda Savka is we're not sure about. There are eight birds that we have, and we're not sure if they're kosher or not. Those are the 8 birds. Okay, I'm not going to translate all of them. I don't even think they have translations for them, do they?
No.
They don't. Yeah.
So we don't know.
We're not sure. These are birds. I mean, they're Babylonian birds, probably. I don't know. I mean,
Well, it says the murder is the same as a bird that Rabbi Yehuda mentioned earlier.
right.
No, not clarification is what it is.
Okay. Massive kayu. If it's to hurt him, what is the what's unknown? Why is their status in question? If it's to hurt him, Krikaman Niklaf, it's main, and Krikaman Niklaf. Kosher birds, they're the gizzards peel, and the non-kosher ones, the gizzards don't peel. Hani Krikaman Niklaf, the sakino. And these birds' gizzards, they only peel with a knife. You can't peel by hand. And I've actually peeled the bird's gizzard. It's very easy. Chicken gizzard comes right off inside the membrane inside. Peels off like you wouldn't believe. Maybe you can bring in one tomorrow. But tomorrow not Shabbos, but maybe it's Sunday. Okay.
What an error.
What? Oh, I got an error, right? But it's not. You can't smoke on Shabbos. Probably. I think now the Gemara asked, there was a goose to have it by Mar Shmuel that they had it by Mar Shmuel. Do they have a kumakal and its gizzard wasn't peeling? So you think it's not kosher, but we know geese are kosher. But most geese are kosher. But he put it in the sun, but even the rough, once it got soft, Iklif, he peeled it. So the Gemara says, no, Hassan was over there was different. When it got soft, you're able to still peel it by hand. Over here, even though the non-kosher ones, even though these ones that are all in question, their status is in question, even when you make them soft, their gizzard still doesn't peel. Only peels with a knife. Amar Abaya, let's just try to finish this. Amar Abaya, trying to go the Agma, Chad Mishpanis Vegas, Uvahainu Marju. Again, this time the chicken, the swamp chicken is one of the 8 status, one of the 8 birds of status we just mentioned is in question. Uvahainu Marju, he said one of the birds we said was Marta. So that's one of them. Darish Amar Papa, trying to go the Agma Asira. The rooster of the swamp rooster is not kosher. Tana goes to the Agma that the swamp hen Sharia is going to be kosher. The Simone and a sign that you have Amoini Vlamonis. We know that Ammonite non-Jew is not allowed to convert to Judaism, but a female Ammonite is allowed to. So the same thing. The female bird is kosher. The non-female, the male bird is going to be not kosher. Okay. Have a great day, everyone. Continue from here tomorrow.
Oh, good Shabbos.
Great Shabbos, everyone.
When do we run into turkeys?
Soon, actually.
Yeah.